So earlier today, Matt LaFleur had a press conference, and he spoke on many different players, and some of these quotes give us an insight into some of these positional battles that we've been witnessing at this Packers training camp, and also just some outlooks for different players going into this 2024 season. And so I want to go over a lot of these quotes about these specific players. And there was a great article written by Packers Wire. Zach Cruz wrote the article, and it basically just gives a breakdown on each of these quotes about these players. And so first off, we'll start off with Sean Clifford. And mixed in these descriptions are some quotes as well as just a summary of what LaFleur said. So on Sean Clifford, can't say it was his best practice on Tuesday. Looking for more consistency. Quote, he had some good plays, but we're going to coach a guy to be perfect, knowing that's probably unattainable. And so far in practice, Sean Clifford has been pretty inaccurate. If you look at all the reports, all the interceptions that he's thrown. And I think if we look last year to the preseason games, he had some nice plays, some nice passes, seemed to be a pretty aggressive passer. But all in all, his last preseason, he went 41 of 57, 391 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and 81.8 passer or quarterback rating, QBR. And so going into his second season, I thought that coming into it, he had a lock on that backup job because he already has a year in the system. But with the Packers drafting Michael Pratt in the 7th round, there no doubt was some competition added for this backup role. And the way things have gone so far, I would say that Sean Clifford is probably, taking a step back when it comes to this competition. Doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't have the backup job at this point, but I think that the preseason is going to be very important to really get an idea of who looks like the better quarterback in these few preseason games we will get to witness. And so Matt LaFleur saying that, they're coaching these guys to be perfect, and it's not always going to be that way. So that's the first player there. Then on offensive tackle, Andre Dillard, quote, I think there's been some moments for him, end of quote. Looking for more consistency, down in and down out. Really talented guy, can play left or right side, very athletic, fits what Packers do, still learning the offense. And then, quote, just looking to get that consistency to the level where we need it, end of quote. And so with Andre Dillard, he spent 4 years in the NFL before coming to Green Bay. And he had a couple pretty solid seasons in 2021 and 2022 with the Eagles. If you look at his grade on PFF in 2021 in 340 snaps, he had a 69.6 grade, which is pretty good, not too bad. The next year, he only played in 37 snaps, had a 67.9 grade. But then last year in Tennessee, his first year there, in 562 snaps, he had a 51 grade. And so the Tennessee decided to move on from him. And with the way he played last year, coming into Green Bay, I didn't think he would, get a starting job based on his poor performance last year. But to start a lot of these practices earlier in the offseason, he was getting some starter reps, but now he seems to have lost that spot to Kadeem Telfort, who recently has been taking those right tackle snaps. And of course, Zach Tom is still not back from his injury, not fully back at this point, and so that's why Kadeem Telfort is out there. So it seems right now that Andre Dillard will probably just be, a backup player here in Green Bay, but seems to have, lost that spot to Kadeem Telfort so far. And then on linebacker Eric Wilson, quote from LaFleur, you talk about a pro. He does everything the right way. So dependable. You can trust what he's going to do out there, end of quote. Big impact on special teams, continuing to get better at linebacker. Great guy to have in the linebacker room. So Eric Wilson has been in the league since 2017, spent the past 2 seasons with Green Bay. He has been more of a special teams guy in the past couple seasons with Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell starting at linebacker. But now in the 4-3, the Packers are going to have, at least some plays where they have 3 middle linebackers out there. Devondre Campbell, of course, leaving this in the offseason. And even though the Packers drafted Edgerrin Cooper in the 2nd round, up to this point, it still feels like Eric Wilson and Isaiah McDuffie are ahead of Edgerrin Cooper in the linebacker room. And we'll see if it stays that way. But the fact that Matt LaFleur really had a lot of high praise for Eric Wilson makes me think that maybe it'll stay this way for a little while until Edgerrin Cooper gets a hang of things and is able to, look the part. But up to this point, Eric Wilson is having a really good camp so far, it seems. Then on Devonte Wyatt, LaFleur said he thinks he can take a big step, and then a quote, "He's done a great job," end of quote. "In great shape, big time effort between whistles." And then he also said, "I do expect him to take a leap this year. What we're doing with him is beneficial to his skill set. I'm excited for him." And if you've heard lots of quotes from different defensive linemen, they all sound pretty excited about this Jeff Hafley defense because of what it allows them to do when it comes to penetrating, gaps on the offensive line, no longer having to monitor two gaps. They just get to, go hard basically through one gap, which I think will make them be a lot quicker off the ball. If we look at Devonte Wyatt, his 2 years in Green Bay, his first year he played in 224 snaps and had 8 pressures. And then last year he played in 552 snaps and had 45 pressures. So he took a massive, massive jump forward when it came to his pass rushing statistics, was much more impactful last year. He did struggle when it came to missed tackles. He would have had even more sacks. He had 7 sacks per PFF, but he would have had more if he would have wrapped up a little bit. So hopefully he can take a step forward in that way. But when you hear LaFleur say that he expects a guy to take a step forward, I think that you have to take that into consideration. And I'm excited to see, in the ways in which Devonte Wyatt can take, more steps forward going into his third season. Then on Grant Dubose, who has been having a pretty solid camp recently, and LaFleur said that's tough on a player when it comes to his back injury he had last year that he had to deal with. LaFleur said he had a healthy offseason, full season on the practice squad, learning the offense, and then, quote, "Very detailed guy, gives great effort, great hands, can run through the ball, strong, and he's excited to see what he can do in these preseason games." And if you guys saw my video recap today, Grant Dubose made a ton of really wow plays per lots of the reports coming out of camp. And so he may have a chance to, make this roster in one of the final wide receiver spots, depending on how many receivers the Packers decide to keep. And there's already so much talent in that receiver room, but Dubose may be, making an argument for the Packers to consider, having him fill in one of those final spots. Then on Keyshawn Nixon, he says K9 has done a great job, embraced the slot role, has previous history with this style of defense, knows ins and outs of the scheme. Quote, "He continues to get better and better." So the Packers this offseason decided to bring back Nixon on a 3-year, $18 million deal, $6.5 million guaranteed, which makes him 29th in per year money at the cornerback position. And I think we saw last year, Keyshawn Nixon, I think he's a solid starter in the NFL. I don't think he's, one of the best corners or a top-tier corner, but he is a solid starter. And so LaFleur really, noting that he seems to really know this scheme well, which is, a good thing for your starting slot corner. And then on Romeo Bos, he talked about how he prepares, how he's very deliberate, takes coaching. He said you can coach him very hard. And he said he's night and day better than when he was a rookie. And the quote, "Ability to get off the ball. He's a great route runner. Takes a lot of pride in his routes. Very strong hands. He catches more balls than anyone in this building pre and post practice. He's always working. It's not a shock to me. The guy puts in the work, and you're seeing the benefits of that." And so it sounds like Romeo Doubs may be the hardest working receiver on this entire team. And we saw him take more strides forward last year, entering a second year in Green Bay. And I wouldn't be surprised if he takes another leap forward in his third season, his second season with Jordan Love. And that's one thing I'm interested to see this season is, with a full year under their belt with Jordan Love, with, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton, even, Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft in the tight end room. How much better are they going to be? Because, they're not starting from, step one here. They already have a full year together. They've gone through the highs and lows together, overcoming a lot last year, ending off, going somewhat far in the playoffs. I'm excited to see just how much more efficient this receiver room and tight end room can be. And then on Tucker Kraft, LaFleur did say he's getting close to being back out there because Kraft has been missing time with an injury. And then finally here, his last player he talks about is Marshon Lloyd. Said he's a work in progress. He's missed a lot of time, a lot of valuable reps. Got to get him back in football shape. And then he said he needs on-field reps, but he's very excited about his skill set. Was locked in mentally while recovering from hip injury. And coming into camp before, practice had gone on, it really did look like there's a battle at that running back 2 spot. A.J. Dillon, Marshon Lloyd being drafted in round 3, and then Emmanuel Wilson. But considering Lloyd has been out with his injury and the fact that A.J. Dillon seems to be in better shape and he's playing a lot better so far, it seems, in camp, A.J. Dillon may be able to win that running back 2 job. It seems more likely than I think when we had started camp, based on just some quotes from LaFleur on A.J. Dillon and a few other coaches as well. And it's a big year for A.J. Dillon. Well, with him becoming a free agent after the season, the Packers bringing him back on a really, really cheap deal this year. So I'd say it's a make or break year for him when it comes to, where he's going to play and how much he could get paid next season. And so it could be that A.J. Dillon, is the running back 2 here, even with the Packers drafting Lloyd. But maybe in the next few weeks, as Lloyd comes back from his injury, if he can get back into football shape and start showing some things, maybe that'll change. But right now, it seems like A.J. Dillon may be slightly ahead of Marshon Lloyd at this point, because Lloyd really hasn't had too much of an opportunity after being injured. But that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe, turn on the post notifications so you don't miss any Packers news. And also, you can follow me on Twitter, LukeBeller3. And you can also feel free to subscribe to my second NFL channel, which I'll leave linked at the top of the description.